We go out to the River Islands guest line. Time for Coach Kerr, presented by Great Clips. In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair. Great Clips, it's going to be great. We go out to Minnesota in January, which is a interesting place to be. Steve, how's the weather?
I think it was 2 today.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
There you have it.
Yep. That sounds like my experiences out there too. Come football playoff time. But anyway, Steve, you said last night was right up there, maybe even the most frustrating moment of the season. I wonder if you'd expand on why.
Well, I mean, it's a game we got to win. You know, we got a lead late in the game. We're playing a team that only has 8 wins and missing their point guard, and we needed the win, and we just didn't get it, and that's frustrating. We've got to finish those games. We've been in so many close games this year, and I don't know what our record is in these clutch games they talk about. It's probably around 500, but it just feels like we should have at least 3 or 4 more wins this year than we do, and last night felt like one of them.
When you look at these games, these late games, is there a common thread that you look at as a reason why you guys are unable to close these wins out?
Every night's different, and when your margins for error are slim, then you got to take care of the details. And if you look at the games I'm talking about that we felt like we should have won, and why we didn't, well, it's slightly different each game, but it comes down to fundamentals and basics, and are we making the right play? Are we making a solid pass? Are we getting a good shot? Are we getting a stop when we need a stop? So it's a little different every game, but it still comes back to are you good enough and are you solid enough? And so far this year we haven't been.
Steve Kerr with us here on Willard and Dibbs. I'm sure this won't surprise you. These were fascinating comments that both you and Steph Curry made after the game. Draymond has made similar ones. When you have dignitaries at your level in the NBA, we're used to people being like, "Come on, let's go, make moves, everything for me. Let's see if we can, make a run at this thing." And there was an awareness, seemingly, to all of your comments about the state of the organization that I found refreshing. But the question I got to was, what do you see as the realistic or correct goal to be striving for this year?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great point. We're just in a really unique spot in a really difficult situation through no one's fault, by the way. This is just the reality of sports and life and, whatever. It's just had this amazing run, and we're at the tail end of it, and we're trying to hang on to it. And it's a young man's game. We know that. And we were that team 10 years ago. We were Oklahoma City. We were Houston. We were just on the rise, and so no, here we are, and we're on the decline. We know that. Steph and Draymond and I have talked about it, together. It would be so irresponsible for this franchise to trade everything away for one final swing at a title. Yeah, I think you have to know where you are, organizationally. You have to know the position of the rest of the league, the landscape, and this does not feel like a time, in my estimation. I think in Mike's and Steph's and Draymond's, where you just you push all the chips in the middle and take a wild swing. That would be so irresponsible. So we're aware of that, but what does that mean? It means we are where we are. We're in the middle of the pack with a bunch of teams that are either, good enough or not good enough, and we have to find out if we are. And by good enough, that means, can you climb your way into the playoffs and give yourself a chance? And that's what we're trying to do.
Is it something that you, Steph, and Draymond have collectively discussed about, where the organization is and how you should, conduct yourself as an organization over the next 23 days?
We've talked about this. The three of us have been together for so long. We have these kind of conversations, and so the discussion has been had, and I'm so impressed with these guys and how much they care about the Warriors and the future of the Warriors. And I think you're right. I mean, a lot of players in their situations would be saying, "Screw that! Let's trade everything and see what we can do." But that's not who they are. They and I think part of that is they're Warriors for life. This is that's part of the meaning of having a player who's only on one team for his entire existence. You see Dirk Nowitzki now watching Dallas games, like he's on the sidelines like a fan, and that's really cool. I love that, and I think that's how Steph and Draymond are going to be once they're retired. They're going to be Warriors fans. They want the best for this franchise going forward, and so they have a reasonable mind about this stuff.
Steve, Dennis Schroeder, it's still only been a few weeks, but why in your mind does he not look like the Dennis Schroeder that we've been watching with other teams?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a struggle for Dennis and for us to try to fit him in smoothly. He's a hell of a player. He's a great defender, and he's got guts. He's unafraid of the moment, and he's helped us win some games for sure. I thought his night in Detroit was really key to that game, that victory against the Pistons. Just what he did defensively against Cade Cunningham and, making big plays down the stretch. So we know what Dennis is capable of. I just think we're all trying to find the right combinations, the right balance. I think he's used to playing frankly, with more shooting around him, and we don't have a team that really stretches the floor very well. And, so there's not a lot of space for him, and he's not as able to use that speed and quickness to get to the rim. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment, but again, it's still early in the process. It's only been a month or so, and we got to keep plugging away. We'll get better with him, and vice versa for sure.
You had mentioned, I think last week, the phrase that has kind of stuck with me: crisis of confidence, and I wonder if that was. I'm sure it's directed at everybody, but is it partly Dennis fitting in, but also Buddy and his shooting woes?
I didn't mean any one individual player. I really meant it as a team. You can just feel our guys know that every game is going to be close. I believe we've still played more close games than anybody in the league. So we got to win on the margins, and I think the players understand that, and so they're pressing a little bit. I know I feel that way. Last game I made a couple of decisions that backfired, and after the game, I didn't sleep very well because I beat myself up for feeling like I cost us the game, and it's a really tough way to exist as a team, as a coach, as a staff, or as players to feel like every single play is so massive, and the game is riding on it, and you got to be loose and free, and you got to be able to make some mistakes to be your best self. And I think right now, when I talk about the crisis of confidence, I think we're all just feeling like, man, this stuff is fragile, and we got to do everything well, and that's probably too much, to put on the guy's shoulders right now.
Steve Kerr with us, as he is every week on Willard and Dibbs, 95.7 The Game. Coach, I've said it on our show a bunch of times. Man, this Jonathan Kuminga injury sucks. Like the timing of it and the seriousness of it, with the way you guys are playing and the trade deadline on the way, what has this done to you guys?
Well, I thought he was playing his best basketball just before he went down. He just was so under control, so measured, making such good decisions, and playing at such an efficient level that it really felt like he was turning a corner. And so for him to go down right at that moment was tough individually for him, and it really hurt us just because he's one of our most talented players and one of the guys we really count on to score after Steph. So you see how everyone's playing Steph these days. It's almost like a box and one no matter where we go. And so we miss Jonathan's ability to get to the rim and score big time.
And that's probably part of the reason why you've had 11 games this year where you haven't reached 100. Last year, you only had 3 such games. Offensively, is it as simple as, it's a make or miss league and your shooters aren't scoring? Or is there more you can do offensively to try to create more points and, get to that magical 100-point mark?
Yeah, there's always more we can do. And that's what we look at every single day as a staff. But there's no getting around it. Last 6 weeks we've been really one of the worst offenses in the league, and we see plenty of stuff on tape that we've got to do better. That our players can do better, and it's always a group effort. But we're working on that stuff all the time.
Steve, when there's all the references to 12-3, and even you've done it, where you're like, I watched these guys do things differently and be a good team on both ends of the floor. What are the specifics there? What did you see that you guys were doing early that you haven't been able to replicate?
Well, I think we were generating a much better pace to the game. Our defense was elite. I think it's been fine over the last month, but not elite. And I think our identity, that first 15-game stretch, was that we were feisty and we were fast. And last night was one of the slowest paced games we've had all year. And we're talking about that every day, about the need to get the ball in quickly, made or miss, to get it up the floor, to really push the pace. But we just haven't been able to generate that same kind of pace that we had early in the year. And I think that's the big thing that we're trying to put together is can we get back to that kind of team that we were early on, fast and feisty and get out and run, cause deflections and turnovers and even on made baskets, race it up the floor. So that's it's something we've got to get back to.
Is part of that maybe injecting more of the Generation Z guys? Because I'm thinking about Guy Santos and how feistily he played the other night, and Moses Moody, born in 2002. Is it as simple, or is it too simplistic to just go to a much more of a youth movement to try to get some of that pace back?
Yeah, I think that's too simple. I mean, Guy is the guy who generates a lot of that with his hustle and just the way he anticipates plays. And so I love playing Guy for that reason. But every game's different, With this team, you kind of have to ride the hot hand sometimes, and we've got a lot of options. I think that's probably the toughest part coaching this team is that I got a million options every night, but no clear choices. And it's like, you go to the Cheesecake Factory and there's 1,000 things on the menu. I don't want to go to a restaurant like that. Give me 10 things on the menu.
That menu is a headache, isn't it? It's like
it's a headache.
Yeah,
it's a headache.
You got to pick what.
Obviously, I'm just giving you a stupid metaphor, but
great metaphor.
Well, the reality is, it's from night to night. What you want as a coach is you kind of want to know, like, here's our pattern. These are the guys we're going to. We're going to do this night after night, and this year it hasn't been that way. It's partly because of injuries, partly because, like I said, we don't have clear separation within the group, and so we're kind of mixing and matching from one night to the next. And that's not easy on the coaches. It's definitely not easy on the players, just them not knowing what their role in the rotation will be from one night to the next. But again, we're just trying to win each game, and every night is very different for us.
Steve Kerr with us here on Willard and Dibs, and you look at this whole situation right now, and so much talk about the deadline, and I won't bring up any specific names, but do you feel like this organization needs to do something at the deadline, either just to rejuvenate or refresh or anything on that end?
I have 100% faith in our organization to do whatever the right thing is, and sometimes the right thing is to not do anything. So, of course, it depends on what you're going to do, what that means. And Mike is so good at his job. I just feel in great hands with him and the whole organization, and they're looking at everything. And it's about not only looking at, what's out there, but also looking at, who we are, what is our identity, and organizationally, where are we, and, understanding our position within the landscape, and then, figuring out what's next. And that's, these are difficult questions for us because of, the legacy that Steph and Draymond have, and 4 championships in the last 10 years, and still plenty to play for, but we're clearly not in that top tier anymore. That's obvious. So it creates some really difficult questions.
And as you talk about legacy, you should be included as well. And I know you won't include yourself, but I will, because you also have 4 titles here. When you guys talk about urgency, are you looking more in a longer term, broader conversation, as opposed to we need to make something happen in the next 3 weeks, or else? Do you look at, you being here for another year and a half at least, and Steph for 2.5, and Draymond? Do you look at this more from not a super long-term lens, but at least through maybe the offseason and what can be done heading into next year?
I mean, I think honestly we're all just on the same page with this stuff. It's not, we're not looking at it, this season or a season and a half. We're looking at just the Warrior, the welfare of the Warriors organization and the franchise, and what that means. And again, there's no easy answer to this, and you're faced with some really, really difficult decisions to make. And I remember Danny Ainge when he traded Garnett and Pierce, and he said, what I learned from Red Auerbach was, watching that team get old with Bird and McHale. He said, what I learned was I'm not doing that. I'm not letting those guys he said, I would have traded Larry Bird. If I remember correctly, I think Danny Ainge actually said that. I would have traded Larry Bird if I was the GM. And that was a fascinating quote, and one that I would probably challenge Danny on. It'd be fun to talk to him about it. He might laugh and say, yeah, I mean, I say that, but that would have been really hard to do, and it's kind of where we are, right? We got guys, Steph and Draymond are still really damn good, but we're a fading team, and that, in terms of our run, our window being open, all that stuff. So, Mike's got a tough job. Joe Lacob, these guys have really difficult decisions to make. And but like I said, we are all on the same page. Players, management, ownership, we're all on the same page. We trust each other. We're fighting together. We're in it together. And whatever direction we go, we're all on board.
Steve, that's really interesting, because, you can hear it in your voice how difficult it is, and all the fans have been doing this. It's hard to find what the right answer is, but when you bring up the idea of the superstar potentially putting on a different jersey, I think fans there's a lot of that right now, where it's not so much like, should the Warriors trade Steph, because I don't think anybody thinks y'all
no way.
Right?
Yeah, no way.
But there's concern that Steph might get to a spot where he would ask for it. What do you tell fans who are thinking that?
I don't think so. I just think Steph loves the Warriors. He loves he loves the idea of being a Warrior for life. I think that's so meaningful for him. He has no intention of doing. That's what makes him unique and different. It's why he's not asking the organization to trade everything to go get him help. Steph is so special in so many different ways, and his self-awareness is just incredible. And it's so meaningful for him to be a Warrior. I don't think our fans have to ever worry about that. It's just a question of, man, this is. Can we help him? Like, what can we do? I watch him still out there performing and playing at such a high level, and he's bringing so much joy to so many people, not only at Chase, but in every arena. People are so excited to see this guy play. And there's so much value in that, watching him perform. And, I think our fans recognize that, understand that, and they want to see him perform for as long as possible, as they should. This guy is one of the greatest artists of all time. He's just an incredible performer, and we all we're all lucky to watch him play. And, hopefully that's something that goes on for another few years. It sure looks like it. But in the meantime, it's a much tougher spot to be in organizationally than it was, for us even the last couple of years. And I think everyone recognizes that.
Steve, we always appreciate all your time, and we know very well that you're coaching basketball and talking through all this with a really heavy heart right now. And so we do want to check on you and the welfare of your family and the experience that everybody is having in Southern California and just see how everything's going.
No, I appreciate you guys asking. My mom is safe, and that's the main thing. But, her house is gone. The whole Pacific Palisades neighborhood, really the whole town where I grew up, just devastated. Every friend that I have that lost their home, pretty much every childhood friend, those houses are gone. So it's surreal. It was such an idyllic place to grow up, such an incredible hometown place to be from, and to go back to the house that burned down was the same house that I grew up in. And every time we play the Lakers or Clippers, I Uber up to my mom's house and have dinner with her at the house the night before the game. And it's, these are special evenings, and it hasn't hit home yet that's not going to happen anymore. House is gone, and we haven't been able to get anybody up there yet to even inspect it and see the rubble and the devastation. So when that moment comes, I'm going to fly down and be with my family and go up there, and I'm sure that'll be incredibly difficult. But that moment is coming, and it's tough to think about.
Just thoughts with you, thoughts with everybody down there, and appreciate you sharing that, and glad she's safe. Thank you, Steve, for coming on as always.
Thanks for having me, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, there it is, the head coach of the Warriors.